Today we are going to learn about animation in Angular 8. For animation in Angular 8, we require a module to be imported that is called browser animation module, and this module is present in the package of animation in platform browser of Angular module. Now let us see what functions are main to run the animations. So here is the style function in which you define your style, and state is a function in which you define that what styles you are going to have. Then there is a transition, that from what state to what state your animation is going to be. Then there would be a trigger, and there would be an animate function. So animate function, what does it do is tells you for how much time you are going to spend the transition of. And then the trigger is a main component which defines that on what point that your animation should start or end, or any effect is going to be. So here what I have is a application in which there is two things happening. There is a open button and there is a close button. On open button, my animation of the div changes as background color green, forecolor white, and my div size increases to 200 pixel. And on close, my div size decreases to 100 pixel, forecolor is black, and background color is yellow. So this is my CSS. This is my CSS working. I'm toggling it on the basis of ng class. Okay. So what I want is I want a smooth transition between both of them. So here is what I have. Two buttons I have, that is of open, closed. Then I have a div on which I am performing a class enablement, that this is an open class, this is a closed class. Okay, so this is what I am doing, and I have a CSS over here. Now what I want is, I don't want an abrupt transition between both of them, that if I do close, transition is not seen, right? It is a abrupt switching of the CSS. So what I want a transition between them. So let us see how we can implement animation. So let us see how Angular defines it. So it says you need to define an animation module in your app module. Let's do that first. In app module, we need to define browser animation module. So browser animation module, and we need to import that from the package of animation present in platform browser of Angular module. We have configured the animation module in our application. Now we need to define the triggers and all other things. So in our Angular application, how do you define an animation? It is present in the animation property of the component. Here you define your array of animations. In the animations, you define multiple triggers. So this is one trigger that I am going to have. So trigger is a function. So you need to pass some value to it. So you need to define the trigger's name. I'm defining it as open close trigger. So in open close trigger, I need to put in the states, the transition functions, right? So I'm going to have an array over here. So in this array, I'm going to put some states, that there is a open state, that there is a closed state, right? So let me put a state function over here. So in the state, I need to define what is the name of that state. So this is my open state, right? In the open state, I am going to have a style function, right? The style function contains the CSS part, what background color you have, right? Yeah, I need to import the style function also, right? So in the style function, we define that what color I'm going to copy my CSS of open class over here. So you need to take care of some things, that the CSS syntax is a little different than the style syntax. Yeah, so in height, as in CSS we directly put the pixels, here it will accept the string, and as in TypeScript it is a object, so that is why we need to put the commas. Color, wait, let me see the color. Yeah, it's white. So here I'm making the object. So instead of background color, I'm going to put the background only. So this is one state of my application. Now I'm going to put another state, which is the close state. So I'm naming my state. Then I'm going to put the style function over here. So in style, I'm going to put my CSS. So let us copy the CSS of closed state. Yeah, right. So in the same way, we need to mend the syntax of the style function. So it requires the object. So here I'm going to pass in the proper syntax. Yeah, right. So I'm making it as an object. Okay, so my states are defined. Now what I want to define more is my transition. So there's a transition function. So you need to import that, and then I'm going to define what is the transition. So in the transition, you need to define from what state to what state it is going to happen. So I'm going to say if it is from open state to close state. So I need you to notice I'm writing the name of the state which I defined over here in the state function. So in the transition, I'm going to define the animate function. In the transition function, we need to put the animate function. So in the animate function, you define how much time your transition is going to take place. So let us define as 1 second. 1 second for open state to close state. Now let us do one more transition, that what will happen if my state is closed and it wants to go to open state, right? So here I'm going to put my transition as close to open. So this is my array. Now I'm going to put my animate function. In this animate also I'm going to put 1 second, right? So this is my uh, animation definition that more or less looks like. Now how does a div knows that I need to open this, I need to close this, what state it is, what animation it is, right? So in for that, we need to remove our ng class. Yes. So let us see what our ng class is doing first. So ng class is toggling on the basis of this boolean. Okay. So if boolean is true, my open class is applied, and if my boolean is closed, then my close style is applied, right? So for animation also I need to do the same. For animation I need to define the trigger. So at the rate trigger name, wait, at the rate trigger name, yeah, right, at the rate trigger name, I need that on the basis of this boolean, in whatever state it is, if it is true, then yeah, wait, I need to put a double, yeah. So if it is true, then I want open state, else I want close state. Okay, so let's see what happens in our application. So here you can see, if I click on open, the transition is taking place. So if I have defined 1 second, so it takes 1 second to get the div from 100 pixel to 200 pixel, and the changing of the color is also taking place. And if my uh, the state changes from open to close, so this is the close state, yeah, so then also my transition is taking place. Let's do one thing, let's increase the transition timing from close to open. So let's increase it to 2 seconds. So when my here right now my uh, state is closed, so let's see. So when it's closed and I'm opening it, it is taking 2 seconds, but when I'm closing it, the transition is faster because it says it should complete in 1 second. So that is how your transition is also handled, right? So this was the animation when I used to do open and close, right? So to make sure that this CSS is getting applied or not, so let us do one thing. I will select all CSS and comment it. Okay, so let's see what happens, right? So I have reloaded it, so still I can see my animation. So this means this CSS was not taken from the app component CSS, but it was taken from the style of the state, right? So here the style of your div doesn't depend on your CSS, it depends on the style that you define for that state. It is completely on the state basis, right? So thank you for today, and let's hope I can meet you in the next video also. Bye.